Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. I'm Joanna Hernandez. On the show tonight,
the child tax credit we are proposing this year will put money back into working class parents' pockets.
The state's new budget allocates $50 million for a state-level child tax credit, but how much will qualifying households receive?
It was like a dream to become the owners of this place.
We take you inside a historic Little Village Theater and talk with the owners about its new landmark status. And meet a group of Latinos embracing the entrepreneurial spirit. First, as we have been hearing from our friends at the PBS NewsHour, there is huge news out of New York, guilty on all 34 counts. That is the historic verdict out of a Manhattan courtroom today. Jurors convicted former President Donald Trump of falsifying business records. The charges are in relation to payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 election in an effort to keep her quiet about alleged sexual encounters with Trump. Trump remained defiant just minutes after the verdict.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Sentencing is set for July 11th. Much more about this verdict tomorrow night on Weekend Review. And Mayor Brandon Johnson is delivering on his plan to expand mental health services. Today, he announced the reopening of the shuttered Roseland Health Center. The city plans to start operating the center by the end of the year and will also add mental health services in Pilsen and West Garfield Park. It's the city's latest effort to provide more access to communities struggling to obtain services. The city says more than 300,000 Chicagoans are waiting for mental health services.
What does it mean to bring mental health services to the community of Roseland or Pilsen? What it means is that if you are a mother out there and your children are going through the same thing my children went through, they're having panic attacks, they're not eating, they're locking themselves in the room, they are afraid, they're depressed, they're having problems with substances, help is available, and it is right here in your neighborhood.
Johnson also announced that beginning this year, the city's crisis assistance response and engagement teams will be fully staffed by the Chicago Department of Public Health employees. He says members of Chicago's police and fire departments who have been involved in those responses plans will be phased out. Chicago public health officials are declaring the city's recent outbreak of measles officially contained. The health department confirmed the first case back in March, with a total of 64 cases since, many which were identified in a migrant shelter. Health officials say it's been 6 weeks without any new cases. CDPH says the department and its partners administered more than 30,000 vaccinations. For the first time, if you were born in Mexico, you'll be eligible to vote in the 2024 Mexican presidential election. As the country is on the road to elect its first woman president, Mexican nationals living in Illinois and northern Indiana can vote in person at the Consulate General of Mexico of Chicago this Sunday. The consulate says Chicago serves a population of 3 million Mexican Americans in Illinois and northern Indiana. Up next, a look at Illinois' new child tax credit program and what it could mean for you.
Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
This week, the Illinois House and Senate approved next year's fiscal budget, which includes $50 million in funding for a new state-level child tax credit. Parents working below the median income with children under the age of 12 could receive a credit between $300 and $600 per household. And according to a study by the Illinois Economic Policy Institute, the tax credit will help decrease childhood poverty and boost the state's economy. Joining us now with more are Juliet de Jesus Alejandre, Executive Director at Palanque LSNA, and Amaya Poar, Senior Advisor of Economic Security Project. Thank you both for joining us. Juliet, I want to start with you. How did this child tax credit bill come about?
So we are part of the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights, which has over 100 members across the state of Illinois. We're from Palanque LSNA, so we're one of those members. And so what groups on the ground, right, working with families impacted by COVID saw was that the federal COVID relief, right, that brought 2 million children out of poverty, needed to be, it needed to be instated, right, or continue, right, and we saw it, they allowed it they allowed it to go, and so we saw children plummet right back into poverty, right? And so here at the state level, we said, what can we do here, right, to really show and model that at this state we know how to take care of our families, right? And that we're going to do all that we can at the state level. And so this is years of organizing on the ground, people working directly, our people impacted, right, by this, trying to work with partners like ESP, right, to get this passed. And so after years, we're so excited that we're here. We have the child tax credit.
So it seems like it was a big initiative. Namaya, I want to go to, there are $50 million allocated in the budget to create a new child tax credit. Where are those funds coming from?
Well, it's $50 million this year and $100 million in every year going forward. So, and remember, this is on top of the expansion of the earned income credit that the coalition that we are part of secured just a couple years ago. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in direct cash support that's going to flow to Illinois families, and then there's a topper for families that have kids between 0 and 12.
Would you say this is a big win?
Oh, it's a big win, but our work is never done. It is a big win. We see this as a part of, it aligns with the governor's agenda to make Illinois the best place to start and raise a family. There's the birth equity initiative, the child tax credit, getting rid of the grocery tax. But these dollars are going to make it possible for families, for kids between 0 and 12, to not have to choose between buying diapers or putting food on the table or buying books. It really also demonstrates to federal policymakers why we need a more humane safety net.
And Julia, to break it down a little bit more, who qualifies? You did talk about that. Who qualifies for the child tax credit, and how much, again, is available per child? If a family is watching, what would you like to tell them?
Well, right now, and I mean, we could get into specifics, but we're looking at $300 per child with $600 tops per family, right? The families need to be under, I think it's 50,000 a year,
up to 60,000.
Up to 60,000 a year to qualify, but jointly married, filing jointly, under 75,000 to qualify, and have children between 0 and 12 years old. And so we know that right there is going to impact 1.4 million children in our state, which is huge. It's not enough, but it's a huge beginning.
Have you already been hearing from families? What has that reaction been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the reaction last year when we didn't win was devastating, right? Because we continue to see families just not able to make it to the next, pay cycle to keep food on the table, folks needing to go and, look for food and community.
On top of all the bills.
On top of everything. And there are families who have lost a whole household member, right? Through COVID, right? That's still an impact, right? And so the devastation of losing last year, because we were so excited and we felt like we could win, and now this year that we actually won, our families are super excited. Our mamas are super excited. They fought hard, and now they see the result. And again, we see this as the beginning. We are not done. This is not enough, right? We need to catch up with the rest of the world that really do support women and families to raise children. This is not a handout. This is not an entitlement. This is actually what is a basic standard of living.
Yeah. Namaya, to give us a perspective, how many children and households will be impacted across the state?
Hundreds of thousands of households across the state, not just in Chicago, but downstate Cairo, East St. Louis to Charleston, right? And everywhere in between is going to benefit from this child tax credit. But the communities will also benefit, right? Every dollar that we send back to families gets spent locally and creates a multiplier of $2.50, right? So if we're talking about sending hundreds of millions of dollars back, not just with the earned income credit, but now this new $100 million benefit starting next year, 50 this year, you're talking about probably close to $1 billion in economic impact. These dollars will flow back into government coffers through sales taxes, and of course create jobs, create spending locally. This is why our coalition is not just progressives. We've got the Illinois Restaurant Association on board. It is a diverse coalition because it's pro-business and pro-family.
In talking about that, I did read that it would reduce childhood poverty and increase the state's economy. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Again, when you have, when we reduce childhood poverty, right, we see better outcomes. We see lower rates of chronic disease. We see lower rates of poverty. Obviously, has better impacts on workers. This has an economic impact, right? Not only is it humane and the right thing to do, but it benefits us in the near and long term. And of course, giving people money means that they will spend that money, which will result in economic activity, which will create jobs, which creates a flywheel for economic development, which is good for everybody.
And Juliet, going to you, how is the child tax credit a benefit to both urban and rural communities throughout Illinois?
Yeah, I mean, having more money at home, wherever you are, whatever your zip code is, right? I work primarily in Chicago in the communities of Logan Square, Avondale, Hermosa, where we're seeing rents continue to skyrocket. Like some of the highest rent increases, or actually the highest rent increases, are in that neighborhood. So families are constantly seeing their rents go up, and their pay stay, right? And job insecurity as well. So this is this kind of stability. This is a move towards stability that people need, but what we need to continue to do is find many different ways for economic justice to happen for our families.
Well, thank you both. Thank you for the work they've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we meet the family behind a landmark theater in Little Village. Visited Little Village, it's hard to miss the Apollo's 2000 Theater, which is now on its way to becoming a Chicago landmark. For years, the place has been a hub for celebrations of Latino culture, but the history of its building and the owners goes much deeper. For nearly 35 years, Javier and Lydia Galindo have welcomed artists from all over the world to the Apollo's 2000 Theater in Little Village.
This is also an amazing world music band. Jorge Strunz from Costa Rica, Ardashir Farah from Iran, and in their band they have like a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, somebody from Africa, Cameroon, a Brazilian, just an awesome guitar duet.
They've also hosted politicians from all levels of government.
The biggest event was a gathering for Al Gore when he was vice president, when he was running for president.
And gathered community members for wrestling, fashion shows, and quinceañeras. The building known as the Marshall Square Theater when it opened in 1917 is now being designated a Chicago landmark, a decision Javier's oldest daughter, Evelyn Stell, says has been almost 20 years in the making.
A lot has been done to the building in order to adapt to our current times, but being able to bring back and restore the exterior of it would be a great way of honoring the past and history of the building, its architectural beauty.
A history captured in the terracotta facade and marquee, the prominent domed ceiling, and even the old projection room where operators left behind carbon rods and film reels.
That's a time capsule because we seldom go up there. This is just a personal thing, with me and her, to actually maintain that sense of respect for the people that worked on it, that built it, the architect that designed it. They're gone, but they're still present here, and we have to respect them for the amazing job that they did.
But the craftsmanship and big-name performers aren't the only history contained in these walls.
Do you remember when Naomi used to go up on stage and just sing and be a singer or artist and play pretend?
I used to dance, do gymnastics, everything. I think we both would.
Yeah.
So you.
Or we would rollerblade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that too, the three of us.
In the 1980s, Javier ran a successful nightclub in the city, but when the club's roof caved in, the couple who had only been married about 6 months saw their future crashing down too.
Our lives were like, now what? We had been we were being so successful, and all of a sudden your dreams are just down the gutter, literally right down the gutter. But it's like at that point, it's like, what have I got to lose?
Javier thought back to an offer he'd received to purchase the shuttered Marshall Square Theater. It was a deal he didn't take seriously at first, but at the urging of the building's previous owner,
We came to see the place, and when I saw it, it looked like a palace for me, because it was at that time like movie theaters were like a palace. So I was in love at the first moment. So then it was like a dream to become the owners of this place.
the place would become a second home to the couple and their daughters, Evelyn, Naomi, and Isis, who grew up exploring the theater.
You could really be an artist, go up on stage. I mean, I'm really talking about using your imagination and playing. Now I know what it feels like to have a child and get a sense of what my parents must have thought. So I envision this being a playground for him as well, and being able to just enjoy it.
As Javier and Lydia began to pass the business to the next generation, they say they hope landmark status will revitalize the neighborhood and bring recognition to a hidden gem in the heart of the Latino community.
You don't really see many landmarks in our community, particularly in areas that are highly disinvested and where there's a high population of minorities. So it's a privilege for us to be able to bring in the prestige of being a landmark to our community.
And although many big names have walked through their doors, the Galindos say it's the community members who've made the greatest impact.
And I truly do feel like this is part of my community, and being able to not just be a part of it, but also serve it and help those in the community establish memories, and again, continues part of the history and the wealth of history and stories of this building, and have that form part of the community, it is a great sense of pride for us.
The final landmark ordinance went to Mayor Brandon Johnson's desk for his signature last week. Latinos have long embraced the entrepreneurial spirit as paleteros, landscapers, and business owners, to name a few. In fact, Latinos are starting businesses at over twice the rate of the general U.S. population. That's according to a new analysis of the Census Bureau data. But getting there as a first-time business owner comes with its own set of challenges. As National Small Business Month comes to a close, we've invited 3 entrepreneurs to share their stories. They are Vanessa Arroyo, the founder and owner of Ceres Footwear; Eric Roldan, the owner and chef of Marina's Bistro and Rum Bar; and Jose Lopez, co-founder and owner of Casa Humilde Cervecería Artesanal. I got it. It was a long name. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. And first of all, congrats on your businesses. I'm sure it was a long journey. Vanessa, I want to start with you. What drew you to fashion and making shoes?
Well, growing up, my dad taught me how to sew. My grandmother taught me how to sew as well. And I'm a product of the 90s. You know how we loved fashion. And the older I got, the more I wanted to pursue that for a living.
So you grew up in that?
Yes, I did. We're from Chicago, so house music, breakdancing, freestyle, all of that.
So you can dance?
Yes. I got moves.
You got moves. Eric, I want to go to you. You're a chef. What motivated you to open your own restaurant and put that Puerto Rican modernized twist, right? It's a modern twist to Puerto Rican food.
Absolutely. So at a younger age, my mom taught me how to cook. And, you know, when she passed away, you know, I kept this on my mind that she wanted, you know, she told me to make her proud. So, you know, I went to culinary school in Puerto Rico. When I came back to Chicago, I decided to start as a ghost kitchen, and you know, and that opened the opportunity to, you know, open a brick and mortar. And there was a lack of representation on the north side of, you know, a great dining space that you could enjoy, you could transport yourself. So that was the thing that motivated me.
So is your restaurant named after your mom?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's
yes.
so sweet.
Thank you, thank you.
And Jose, you started brewing beer, which is insane, from home, which I feel like a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
With your brother.
Yes.
Tell us about the inspiration for your products.
We felt, so myself and my brothers, we were into craft beer, but we didn't see ourselves, Mexican culture, Latino culture in too many brands. So we were like, we drink it a lot. Why not create something that kind of represents our culture, our ingredients, kind of what we grew up with? So that was the inspiration behind everything.
What are the flavors you would say that you've incorporated in your beer?
Hibiscus, horchata into some of our stouts.
I've never tried horchata. Oh, wow,
one of our beers, nopali, we use tuna from the nopal. So we use that. We use maracuya in some of our seltzers. We have a seltzer called Cantarito, which is based off the traditional Mexican drink. So a lot of our beers have those flavors.
I'm going to need to try that.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And I want to talk about capital, because that's always the hardest part. Eric, cost can often be a barrier for entrepreneurs. Was that a challenge for you, and what was that like for you?
Absolutely, it was definitely a challenge. Trying to get capital as a minority and as a gay man, it was very, very difficult. Trying to find somebody that will believe in your dreams. I got turned down many times trying to get capital. But I found somebody that believed in me, believed in my vision, and what my brand was all about. And yeah, and that's how I got the break. So, but yeah, I did went through several barriers.
Not trying to give up. And Vanessa, you self-funded your business.
I sure did.
At what point did you find out there was help for your business, and what was it like navigating that?
Well, my business is about to hit the 1-year mark, and I recently received a grant to open up a storefront with my business partner in Westtown. And these resources, they've always been there, but a lot of them I got turned down. You know, loans, they don't look at you if you're a new business, and even grants, you have to have been in business. Fortunately, through the Westtown Chamber, I was the recipient of this grant, and we now have a storefront. And right now, I'm a footwear designer by trade. So having a footwear brand is just an extension of the many things that I do. And I'm able to operate my business through all of the other things that I do, like education in fashion design. And
would you say you had to learn everything on your own? When you first started, you had this vision of creating this footwear. What was that like, just trying to figure everything out?
Yeah, well, I didn't think
I was. You can laugh now.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be an entrepreneur at all. I like to develop product and design product, and I had to learn these things, and that's okay because I know that I have a vision for the brand. We are produced in Mexico, and for me that was really important. It's really important for me as a fashion designer. I work in an industry that is gate kept completely, like even here in Chicago. And I really want to represent my people. So I work with artisans. I moved here from Mexico, so I work with artisans that I hired and manufacturers. And
that's a big deal in general because of even manufacturing costs.
Exactly. And being able to work with people one-on-one is just very special.
Can you relate to that, Jose, what she's saying?
Yes, kind of taking it back to the whole funding thing, that's been the hardest part. A lot of our funding, we've applied for so many loans, and there's loans out there that'll try and get you at 60%, 50%, 40%, and that's where kind of businesses, you're setting yourself up to fail. You know, so we've luckily never had to take in some of those loans, but we were able to, you know, kind of like any business owner, home equity
and
out of your home.
And also trying to figure out what all these words mean. Like, let's be real, what everything means,
it's
right?
It's the most daunting, like getting those applications. We were just talking about this with someone, your personal financial statements, and just putting everything together. They need whole financial. We got to a point where we have everything together, but once you get past that and, you know, being overwhelming, it's still, no one's out there really giving us money.
And Eric and Vanessa, I want to go to you. Both of you are relatively newer business. What have you taken away, Eric, from this short time?
What I've taken from this short time is like how people love my food and my vision, and you know, and that's the greatest thing that ever could happen to me. You know, knowing that people are behind you.
You're getting that good feedback.
Yes, the good feedback, the people that trust you. So that's something that I will never, you know, take for granted.
What about you, Vanessa?
I have to agree with you because seeing the community that backs you and your vision, it's such a scary thing to just even get started.
You know, so many restaurants here in Chicago, you know, like, and starting a new business, and you gotta compete with so many people, and like to maintain yourself on the top and trying to reinvent yourself all the time.
And staying authentic, right? To who you
Absolutely.
are.
Key.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Because all of you seem to be really putting your culture into your product. Would you say that that makes a difference?
It does.
100%.
Absolutely.
It does.
You know, I decided, like myself, I decided to do my restaurant Uptown, which there was lack of representation of our culture and our food, and I didn't want to just make it and where all our restaurants in Humboldt Park is. So.
Thank you so much. We literally only have a couple seconds. One word that you would like to give advice to someone else who's starting a new business.
Believe in yourself.
Never give up.
Perseverance.
Well, thank you, and congrats to all of you, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's our show tonight. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 7 for the Weekend Review. Now, from all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, I'm Joanna Hernandez. Stay healthy, stay safe. Buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, which is proud to honor founder and senior partner Robert Clifford, who has been named in Forbes' 2024 list of America's top 200 lawyers.